99.9% of traders and investors are creatures of habit. They do the same thing over and over and over again without a thought of approaching the market differently. Whether they invest or trade in stocks, bonds, commodities, or even currencies, everyone has their own entrenched way of choosing investments. However, the best traders and investors think outside of the box. They are unconventional thinkers when they're searching for ways to deploy their capital, to put their money to work. They adapt their portfolios to capture opportunities in the market wherever that opportunity may arise. Now, for the average trader and investor, the best way to do this, especially right now, is to look at international positions, international stocks. Even with international stocks outperforming the U.S. markets over the last quarter century, many domestic investors still shun global equities and global opportunities. Now, the reasons are many, but for most traders and investors, they boil down to fear of the unknown and loss aversion. But the history shows us that these fears are unreasonable, and oftentimes they're unfounded. Here's why every trader and investor should try their hand in the international markets. Number one, and I'm going to give you 5 reasons. Number one, outperformance. Believe it or not, the U.S. stock market has not been the world's top performing stock market over the last 25 years. Even in 2017, when the Dow was soaring 25%, the S&P 500 added 19%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ booked 28% to the upside. The United States took 5th place in the global performance of ranking. In 2017, Argentina's stock market exploded 77%, hitting a record high in the final week of the year. Now, these gains came on the back of a 45% surge in 2016. Driven by President Marcell's sweeping pro-business economic reforms. Now, make no mistake about it, the Argentinian economy suffers from high inflation and a struggling currency, but it is quickly morphing into a haven for South American businesses. Turkey and Nigeria ended the year in 2nd and 3rd place with 48 and 42% gains respectively. Hong Kong's widely followed Hang Seng Index earned 4th place in the global rankings with a 36% advance. Now, of course, not every international stock market posts stellar gains, like I've just mentioned. Qatar, for one, led the losers lower with an 18% drop. But given the outperformance of the U.S. stock market last year, it's extremely likely that the developed world and even 2nd and 3rd tier economies would trend upward for the next decade or longer. Once again, number one, outperformance. Number two, diversification. Reasons why you want to look abroad to get P.A.I.D. Why you want to make your capital global. Diversification. See, diversification is often the key to protecting against catastrophic downturns in the market. And what better way to diversify than by spreading your risk across the globe? Now, despite the growing correlation between domestic and foreign equities, seeking diversification internationally still makes investing sense, primarily as a way to access lower market valuations. Now, while U.S. stocks trade for roughly 20 times trailing earnings on average, international developed markets average in the 15 times trailing earnings area, and emerging markets trade near 13 times. You see, these numbers seem to suggest greater growth potential in international and emerging markets than here in the old U.S. of A. Third reason why you want to consider investing abroad, intelligently, mind you, intelligently, is global growth. The United States is a mature market, meaning relative growth is not as rapid as other economies. You see, growth is cyclical. Okay, once again, it is cyclical. And investing internationally enables you to capture profits from shifting economic cycles. Now, the global economy is in a growth phase. I repeat, the global economy is indeed in a growth phase, making now the ideal time to diversify internationally. In furthering this case, The IMF, talking about the International Monetary Fund, is forecasting global growth to continue at a steady rate. An overall expansion of nearly 4% is forecasted this year in 2018. And for developed economies, the expected rate improves to 5%. Specifically, the IMF projects 7% GDP growth in India and over 6% in China in 2018, building, once again, a compelling case for international diversification in these nations. Fourth reason I want to give you is greater choice. Greater choice. You see, investing outside of the United States provides a much greater choice of companies and opportunities. While the information may be harder to come by and companies may be a little bit more challenging to access, the potential reward can be much greater. A greater choice. And the last reason I want to submit to you today inside this Classroom Not Walls radio broadcast is currency fluctuations. Currency fluctuations. Often viewed as a negative, currency volatility works both ways. It's a double-edged sword. Listen to me. If the exchange rate moves in your favor, you could end up earning a little premium on your investment. So you have to monitor the currency utilized by the country that you trade or invest upon. Now, despite all the benefits of investing internationally, okay, you have to be cognizant of a couple of salient points, like we discussed earlier about oil. They are political risk. Political risk is something we really don't have to be worried about here in the United States, depending upon your view or your opinion. However, particularly in emerging markets, political risk can be very high. A change of a regime or economic philosophy can send stocks plummeting. However, the flip side to political risk is that a more pro-business regime may come into power, sending stocks soaring to the upside. So what you want to consider is possibly adding international positions to your portfolio. And the easiest way to do that is via ETFs, okay? Macro positions, exchange traded funds. And you want to look at actualizing or buy the open ETFs in regions or countries that have ETFs that are focused upon them. This will provide you, my beloved Astros Wealth Institute family members and listeners alike, diversified exposure to this whole world, this globe known as Mother Earth, allowing you to get P.A.I.D. internationally.